underwriter for your account at that point in time, and I was an underwriter for many years, paying 115, 110, and 446,000, I would have pulled the plug on the association. But, and you were with CAU, you spoke there. So CAU, which is a great company, anyway. So they did not do that. So then the next year was 17,000. The next year after that was 241,000. So the association, what they look at is they call it a loss ratio. In other words, how much losses versus how much premium. So needless to say, so CAU finally last year said enough's enough and we have to go off the association. So now we were in a really bad spot. And one thing to realize is that there are only a very small handful of insurance companies that can do a good job with condominium association. It isn't like you can go in the phone book, like, you know, there are probably hundreds of property casualty insurance companies out there. But only maybe 5 insurance companies are able to and interested in doing this class of business. So it isn't like we can shop 25 or 30 companies and see it. And really, even if we did, with this history, nobody's going to want to take it. So that's what. Oh, and then to make matters even worse, the insurance market, like we talked about before, had really spiked upward for across the board. Not so much in all types of business, but in the world of condominiums, the insurance prices went crazy. Some companies would do, you know, 45, 50% increases, you know, every year. Then, so that all that's left at this point is what's called the excess surplus market. It's almost like if you think about driving, and you're in the assigned risk. And the reason you're in the assigned risk is kind of the same factors we just talked about: what you are, what your history is, and so what the insurance company expects might happen. So now, if we ended up in the excess surplus market, and I had one association a long time ago, they went from like 50,000 to 650,000 because they had 3 fires. Now you guys have had 2 fires, and you know, a whole bunch of slip and fall claims, people falling all over the place. So that's the problem. I mean, the association is really well managed, but that's the history and that's the way it is. Right? Oh, yes. All right, the total, all right, so the question was, what was the total payments to the association over 10 years? It was 1.2 million.
Over 10 years.
Yep.
Did the lawsuits get, like, does Mr. Zangerly represent and fight against some of the lawsuits that maybe should not be paid?
Or does the
No,
insurance
I
company?
don't represent any of
Who
the
does?
insurance company assigns a defense attorney and pays for the attorney. I don't get involved. If I get a phone call from you or somebody saying if a lawsuit came in, I just say, okay, turn it into your carrier because that's already paid for.
Yes.
Somebody should thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. Ahern?
No.
I just did a little bit of calculation here.
Yes.
We now pay $200 a month. If you look at, I know that not every single condo is filled, and I also know that not all of them pay. But if you just, with the simple math, if you have 439 units, multiply that by 200, over the course of the year, that's over $1 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're saying that we've just paid over $1 million to you over the course of 10 years.
Correct.
So would you say that's a little bit of mismanagement of funds?
That was not money paid to him, that was money paid to residents. That was,
Miss, yes, I understand how.
Well, what I'm just saying is that
$1 million
like,
was paid out to residents. That was not paid out to.
It's not paying him.
Or-
Those are losses that the insurance company paid, whether it be for the fire or whether it be for slip and fall lawsuits.
I understand, but I'm not privy to what we pay him. I'm not privy to, am I privy to what our premiums are?
Of course.
I don't, because we trust them that they have negotiated and gotten the proper, business and those who are representing us.
Yeah, that was all brought up in a meeting.
All right,
Okay.
all right, yeah, that's a good point. Hold on one second, please, please. All right, my job, what?
Yeah, go ahead, be yourself.
I'm just getting one sentence out. All right, here we go, okay, ready? My job as an insurance broker is to search the market for all the best pricing as
Okay.
possible. And that's what I've done for the past 10 years. But the problem is, I have to deal in reality. This is what this I insure about 100 associations in New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania. Our office does about 800 in total across the country. So we're a condominium specialty agency. The company that you were with, CAU, is a specialty company that only insures condos, co-ops, and HOAs. So that was a great fit for all those years. And every year they took a big hit, and then they stayed on it. But then they couldn't. What?
Baby boom. People get older, people want to be involved in these environments, and it's cost for
Sean,
Yeah.
Sean, does the insurance company take a proactive role in outlying years? When they see these kinds of numbers, do they come in and try to determine why?
Yeah. Well, all right.
And if they do they make recommendations?
Yes.
And are those recommendations followed?
Okay. The word recommendation was actually the very accurate word. I'm not sure if you're in the business or whatever, but yeah, what ends up happening is, okay, if you have bad history like this, the insurance company will make the call, recommendations or recs, and you wouldn't, very often those recommendations as a condition of maintaining the insurance, you guys might not like that. In other words, well, you've got to fix your front step, you got to, there are potholes in the parking lot.
We're not talking about that. We're talking about $400,000 worth of claims.
Right.
Would somebody come in and say, why did this happen, and how can we stop it?
That was a fire.
If you'd like.
Okay, in the middle of winter, okay, we've got, when we tell the people to please do not go out if you don't have to, okay? We have ice melt in every dumpster for the residents, all right? During a 15-inch or more snowstorm, I see my neighbor going with a little ShopRite bag to the dumpster. Your trash can stay on your balcony, by your door. There is no reason to go out in the middle of a snowstorm. And that's what the biggest problem is, the slip and fall.
$400,000
Well,
worth?
we had a bad fire here. I don't know if you know that. We had another fire that was contained to 2 units, which was very good. Only 1 unit was destroyed badly. The other fire we had, there must have been, I think, 6 units destroyed. That was the biggest problem. What year?
Yeah, was that the year of the $400,000?
I think so, yes.
Think? Should be knowing.
I've been here like 3 years. I've been in a home for many years. And periodically the insurance company would come and tell me they were not going to do my insurance. They would grab it on one of my squares of concrete. I've lived here 3 years. There's a dumpster in my building that is so horrific. I've complained about it a number of times. I don't know why anything but say, this has to be fixed, all these things have to be taken care of in the development.
All right, so the answer is actually yes. Like, the insurance companies come out usually about 2 or 3 times a year. I'm sorry, once every 2 or 3 years. And yeah, they're looking.
Excuse me, there was a gentleman here just last month from the insurance company that we have.
And what has he gotten back to us with?
I don't know, June, right off the end, he hasn't come back yet.
Yeah, but we're
It's
asking
only
about the
been the
insurance
last
company
2
was here
weeks,
before.
okay.
We're going off track.
The assessment that we were levied earlier this year,
Yes, sir, right, okay,
how does that tie into what this additional increase is? Because I feel like this. I feel like everybody in this room.
excuse me, can you tell us your name?
Yes, ma'am. My name is James Thomas Farthing, and I am owner of 224B Thornwood Drive.
I know.
My wife, myself, and
Nancy.
my wife Nancy. And, you know, I think it's a fair question. Is there any connection between the previous assessment that was levied this year with the increase that is getting ready to occur? And I don't even know when that increase is supposed to happen. Okay. So, in essence, if you add up all the money, then it's more than $30 increase because we already paid an additional $20-some a month based on the previous assessment. Now, I'm confused in reference to, is that a separate item in reference to insurance needs? Is it to compensate for a shortfall of delinquent owners? Or is it a necessary evil in reference to where we stand to sustain ourselves? And I think part of the frustration here is that we don't understand, we don't know. We didn't have a harsh winter. I'm sure that you have money put aside, it's in the budget, X amount of dollars for the winter, and the cost of the winter could not have been this dramatic in 2015 as it was in previous years, maybe last 2 or 3. So there should be some surplus that would be refunded into the overall, I would think. So now, I believe that our biggest frustration is that we're spending money, or we're being asked to spend money. I believe people will spend money based on services that they recognize or understand that the sustenance of all of us as a community have to share in. But there's too much gray in reference to why. And I think that's why we're all here, at least one main reason.
Well, let me throw one in there.
Quiet, please.
As far as the services goes, we rebuilt your buildings, we paid for your lawsuits, the water plant, I think that.
I didn't ask about services. I asked about the assessment that was done previously this year, and already the cost that's been put in place because of it. So we paid that. You had to pay that by the end of April. So you already paid for the year another $20 against the condo
Hey,
association.
Mr. Farthing.
But he's not being fair. Don't patronize me. Just give me an answer to the question. Yes, ma'am.
Maybe he's not aware of it.
Please.
Your budget is done before your fiscal year ends,
Okay.
okay? The insurance was canceled after the budget was made up. And the increase was well over $100,000 for the new insurance policy. The only insurance company that would take Renaissance. Okay, so that's why there was an assessment to make up for that money, because you went from giving them, June, what did you usually pay the first beginning, 50,000, and this year it was 87,000?
Right, no, it's been 20-something.
No, I know, that's the monthly, I'm talking about the, we paid 87,000 this year for the new policy when it started.
Right, correct.
In the past, what was it, like 50,000, if I remember? Okay, so there's a difference there. Then her monthly fees that we have to pay for the policy for the year went from 20,000 to 27 something. Okay, if you ever look on the bulletin board, the financials are there and you can see what they pay
I
every
read the
month.
newsletter, but
Alright, but it's a little more detailed on that bulletin board. So now your policy's gonna be up again. And that's why part of the increase.
so it's two separate issues.
Yes.
That's your
It's got to cover, yes, because when the new policy comes in, we don't know if there's gonna be an increase, there's definitely not gonna be a decrease. There may, eventually, if there's no lawsuits, in 4 years or so, isn't it usually around that, Sean?
Yeah, there's,
Yeah, they may decrease.
there is one.
Excuse
I've
me,
never seen one make
But as
that.
long as the policy has to be paid on a yearly basis, that's why there's got to be an increase instead of constantly assessing.
All right, and you're giving a clarification, which I think we need. So what you just said made some sense. In other words, we had a shortfall that we had to pay the original assessment for to make up the difference. And now moving forward, the cost is greater,
Harvey.
which needs to be compensated with
Harvey, he's not finished.
Can I, Mr. Farthing,
Yes.
when our insurance was canceled, now I know there's, I would say 3/4 of you people that are here have never been to a meeting, okay? All of that was discussed. When the insurance was canceled, how much we had to pay as a down payment for the new insurance, and how much our monthly payments were gonna be. All of that was discussed, and everything was in the newsletter, okay? So my thing is, come to the meeting so you know what is going on.
And that's fair.
Wait, okay, wait 1 second. Just wait 1 second, please sit. All right, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting. No, wait.
The meeting's going good. The meeting's going good.
Shows you how they don't attend these meetings.
Meeting has nothing to do with the question.
Don't jump until you hear the last word.
People don't get excited. We don't have an EMT outside just in case somebody has a heart attack. We got a nurse.
I know CPR.
Second. I make a meeting, or, yeah, I make a motion to close the meeting for the board. The meeting will now be open to the residents, one question at a time.
Okay, so one question
No,
before
we
you
haven't
close the
said
meeting.
it yet.
Once you
I
close
said-
the meeting, are they still gonna take minutes?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
but I have a recorder right here.
Can we still ask questions of the lawyers and the attorneys?
As soon as the motion is second, please, I second the motion, please.
Can I ask a question now from Sean?
Okay,
Raise your hand.
okay, I am gonna start, I am gonna do one person over here, one person over here.
What about the middle?
Okay, I work my way around, right? Please know, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Um,
state your name, please.
My name is Lisa Byron, 45. Quiet. Lisa Byron, 4502 B Adelaide Drive. I just have to state that I feel like we're missing the whole picture. Everyone moved here to Renaissance Club for peace in their close to or retirement years. Instead of fighting, we should be supporting each other. Many of us are on fixed incomes. The problem is that the board keeps going to the same pockets. And over the past 3.5 years I've lived here, the HOA has been raised 12.5%. If we go with this $30 now, that actually totals it to, since I've been here, it'll be 3.5 years, maybe a little longer, to 27.5%. That's a lot of raise for people.
Quiet.
Let her finish.
Please be in time, so give her time to talk.
I mean, that's a lot of money that, I've never seen that kind of a raise in 3.5 years, no matter where I've worked. But I'm just saying that's a lot to take on. The problem is that because you're going to the same pockets, it's like you're preaching to the choir. The people that we have to go after are the people who don't pay their HOA. And And there's also, I understand that there's some type of a clause that the condo could put in that residents are not allowed to sue?
Right.
The-
Tried that, a guy got shot
How
there.
can they get away with that?
I mean, so I think that that's something that maybe our lawyer has overlooked for us to help protect.
First of all, let me address the piece you did amend your bylaw to incorporate tort immunity, but there's some significant holes in that statute and in that tort immunity. It applies to the owners. It doesn't, and there's no case law that says it applies to tenants, and it certainly doesn't apply to visitors, anybody who's here. So, and it doesn't apply to children, which shouldn't be a problem here. But it's there, and it impacts your premiums because it's there. But, I found that impacts it, and the deductible will impact it. A lot of the associations I'm dealing with increase their deductible to $10,000, and then tell all their unit owners to make sure your HO6 policies have provisions to pick up that deductible. And so that reduces the premium to a certain extent. But I think the key point is the slip and falls are sort of the saucy things. I mean, they're the ones that get people most frustrated because people fall and it's almost a natural thing and then they sue for it. But you got to remember the fires are also big hits to the insurance company, which they're going to recoup.
Where is your personal insurance? Where's the line? Where's the
Just to go back to what I was saying, how do we get to?
This lady asked a question 10 minutes ago and hasn't been acknowledged.
Well, that's
How
fine.
about you ask yours? Let's go to this side of the room.
Wait till it's your turn. Just ask for whatever you want.
I'm sorry.
Guys, we're not gonna get done.
Mr. Sanderly, so how do we go about taking care of people that are not paying?
All right. Okay, so you asked a question about the delinquency. Okay. All right, I'm going to tell you something that I don't expect a very favorable reaction, but your delinquencies are not that bad. They're not that bad relative to how many units are here and how many people are not paying.
That's excellent.
They're not bad. And let me explain, most of them are in people that are in foreclosure by the bank. Now, condominium assessments are personal obligations of people, and they're also liens. Now, as a lien, I can foreclose upon that lien. But by the statute, I'm subordinate to the mortgage company. The money that they lend people to buy, I'm subordinate to that. Meaning, if they foreclose, we're wiped out. Our lien's gone except for a 6-month priority. So it makes, in the normal world, the normal environment, it makes no sense for the condominium association to foreclose. Because in almost 100% of the time, they're not paying their condo assessments, they're not paying their mortgage. And they're going to be foreclosed, and so you're going to pay me to foreclose, go through the expense, and by the time I'm finished, the bank is right behind me, foreclosing and taking title themselves.
Is it legal to do this? I don't know if it's legal or not. We have people that don't pay. It's not right. They just don't pay, all right? I don't use the pool, I don't have a car, blah, 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 blah. This is our property, right? And we all pay to use this property, right? Okay. How do we say you cannot walk in our property unless you pay your condo fees? Now, if they can spring some fairy dust and they can fly over to your condo, that's fine.
Right,
But-
listen to her, please.
But that's
You can suspend certain rights, the pool and things like that. The pool,
That's nothing. They don't care.
Let me finish. In most communities, the pool is the primary
Not here.
electricity, so you suspend it. Well, what, you're missing the point of what I was saying. Most of the files that I deal with, they're in foreclosure from their bank. People don't go into foreclosure to avoid paying condominium assessment. They are in financial straits and they don't have the money. Now, let me finish. Now, and in many of them, they're dead. I mean, I don't mean, but this is a 55 and over. They will pass, there's that 5 of them that they passed away. They didn't have money to create an estate. And we're just waiting, there's no place for me to go to get that money. It's a stone, and I get paid per service. So if I file a complaint, I get paid for it. I get paid, so I could do that, but I'm wasting your money
Well,
to
how
do
many
that.
times have you actually done that for us?
Done what?
Foreclosure.
I've never filed a foreclosure here. I've done it in other communities.
Okay, people, from what I understand, there were foreclosures here prior administrations.
No.
Yes, and it was a different attorney, I understand.
But it cost, back then, it cost the Renaissance?
I'm sorry, I don't know who you are.
Yes, you do, because you attacked me once.
Do we have a choice? Do we have a choice?
Wait, I don't know who you are.
Can I make a quick statement? Quick statement, an observation, quick statement, 1 minute. We've heard a lot of problems, but my concern is, sir, with all due respect to your attorney, the insurance company, I've been involved with a number of lawsuits, all right? I don't have as much experience as the attorneys for you, but in my feeling, your attorneys have had not just one losing season, but many of them. I've been involved with a number of business owners. They don't pay out this kind of money with all the lawsuits. They just don't. They don't pay. They fight them. I've seen good lawyers put that person on the hot seat after they've been deposed. And guess what? That lawsuit goes away. So maybe the people that we're paying and representing us are not doing the job they need to do, because the money doesn't come out. There's no incentive. They just go to the well and get more money.
Okay, he does not handle any lawsuits.
I said I made a mistake, and I said with all due respect to the attorneys for that, it was an observation based on what I've heard tonight, which everyone heard tonight. He's had a losing season, many of them, and it's costing us money. And that person certainly isn't feeling our pain.
Well, let me, and I don't do the insurance defense, but I'm going to, almost all of those cases settle.
I know, 90% of all cases, money will pass
Oh,
in.
and they
But that's much money?
settle. I don't know what the money was, and neither do you.
We heard.
You heard what the payouts were. It is a fire, there was a major fire one of the years, it has nothing to do with losses in insurance. I don't know, and I don't know who the insurance carrier assigned the cases. But I do know that they're going to get settled because that's what the courts want to happen. And they'll settle at a reasonable value because they don't want to go, for the defense side, they don't want to go before a jury because you run the risk that the jury is awarding a lot of money.
With all due respect, I don't want to debate that because I've seen really good lawyers that went during the deposition, the case gets thrown out. There is no money exchange. It's done. But maybe someone's got to do a better job
Okay,
during the
but
deposition.
understand this. Even in that case, that goes against your lawsuit because they had to pay for that.
We know, but certainly not at the rate when you just start handing checks out. Come on. We know that there's still going to be money.
There's nothing we can do, Mr. Zang.
But I've
So we
seen
have a
it.
choice.
I've been involved in it.
Excuse me, your minute is up. Thank you. Please. One person at a time. I'm working my way over. So please sit and put your hand down. You're not in first grade. Harvey.
Question to the lawyer first, Gary. You said most of these people in arrears have mortgages, how about the ones that don't have mortgages? Don't you go after them
Yeah.
on a lien?
On a
settlement?
okay. Let me tell everybody the process.
And
and how it
also you
works.
said that they're passed away, you don't know who the owner, somebody owns the property,
Let me finish.
children own it,
But in some cases, no one owns it because there's not enough money to even create an estate. You know, so when someone dies, unless it's one of the first spouse and it's right by the entirety, the house you have to create an estate. You have to go down to the surgeon's office and create an estate. If they have no money and only bills, there's no incentive for anybody to go down and create the estate. Now, that's happened in several occasions where there is no one to own. Now, let me go back a second before we even get to that. Here, as I was saying before, condominium assessments are legal obligations, a contract, and they're also a lien against property. So when I'm told somebody owes money, first thing I do is I send a letter. And the letter says, you owe this amount of money, you have 30 days to dispute it. It's required by federal law that I do that. Once that happens, I send a lien out to that person. If they haven't paid, they get a lien. They get a copy of the lien going in, and then once it's filed, they get a copy of it filed. If that doesn't result in a payment, then I can file a suit and get a civil judgment. Now I got a civil judgment, I have to collect on it, okay?
Lawyer fees.
Lawyer fees are thrown in there. Right. Under condominium under your documents and under the statute, the association recovers, can fee shift my fees to the defendant. Because basically, the court and the legislature said it's not fair to everybody else when they're relying on assessments to pay to have the legal fees to the association. So they put it to the person who is delinquent. Now I gotta collect, okay, there's several ways to collect. One, if they're an investor, if they are an absentee owner, they don't live here, I can levy on the rents. And we do that if we know that there's a tenant in there. I can also send them what's called a post-judgment interrogatories, which means they have to tell me their assets. Where do they work? Do they own a car? Do they have a bank account? If they don't answer it, I can get an order to have them arrested for not doing that. Now, all that.
We're not looking for a legal course.
All right, well,
Because we all have other questions.
okay. All right, so to get to the point where we're going after their assets, one of the added difficulties of the Renaissance Club is as a 55 and over community, many of the people are living on Social Security or pensions. I can't levy that. I cannot, by law, attach their Social Security